Hello everyone, this is LockOS, and welcome to the Mirage 2000C for a full startup tutorial in my Mirage tutorial series. In this startup video, we're going to be going over a full startup where we're going to be setting up the Mirage as much as it can on the ground for navigation, combat, and flight. And now we're going to be doing a little bit of a taxi tutorial to show you how to taxi the aircraft properly onto the runway for departure. So let's get started. First thing to note with the Mirage, you can remove the pilot body, and you will want to because there are some switches that are blocked by the pilot body. So right shift P removes the pilot body so you can access all the different switches. First thing to check, and I always like to do this first when I do my Mirage, you want to make sure that the throttle is in the idle cutoff detent, and we can verify that it is in the idle detent here. So the cutoff detent here, because there is none of this track for the throttle is visible here at the very back end, and it's fully back. If you load into the Mirage with your throttle halfway up or halfway activated like this, it'll when you load into the game, it'll match the position of the throttle in real life. So you'll load into the game like this, and you'll go, oh, I need to set my engine to cut off before I can start the aircraft, and you do this, but it's actually at the idle detent, not the cutoff detent. So in order to get it into the cutoff detent, press that button, and it'll unlock the detent and automatically push your throttle into the cutoff position. Make sure your throttle is in the cutoff position before you start the engine start procedure. I will go over this again. This is something that has led to many frustrations when trying to activate starting to start up my Mirage 2000C many times. Next up, we want to go ahead and make sure our aircraft is connected to ground power.
Chief, turn on the ground power.
And then we load our aircraft up with their weapons.
Copy. Ground power is now on.
Make sure that you, especially on online servers, that your aircraft has a loadout before it's taking off. There's nothing more embarrassing than trying to get into a dogfight only to realize that you only have your internal guns because that is all you didn't bother to load up your aircraft on an online server. If it's a single-player mission, you should have your weapons available, but it doesn't hurt to check with the mission, with the ground crew through the F8 menu, what your current loadout is to just double check. Plus, to also make sure you load up any additional ordnance that you may want. I know a lot of my training missions that I create for myself, I purposely leave my aircraft on the ground, any ground aircraft with no ordnance, so that way I can select different ordnances on the ground. So we already have our predetermined loadout here that we already picked with our centerline fuel tank, two S35, two Matra Super 35Ds, and two Matra Magic 2s with the DMM missile warning system mounted on them on the external pylon, so we're all good. Like I mentioned in my loadout video, 30mm armor piercing is the standard ammunition for the Mirage 2000C. We can have tracers on them if we wish, but that is not standard. We also have the ability, we also are fixed in the amount of flares and shaft we can carry. We can't adjust these. There's our loadout. There's our livery that we want to fly in. If you want to see your livery on your aircraft before you take off, just go ahead and hit F2 and then do this menu. That way you'll see which aircraft you're flying with. We're all good here, so hit OK.
Request rearming.
And let's zoom down here.
Copy.
So, start a procedure. Even though we have ground power, we want to hit the battery switch on, so that when we start the aircraft up, the aircraft starts running off of the battery power there. Get down here, so for better visibility. Emergency hydraulic pump switch is on, and the pitot heat cover, turn that on. Leave the audio warning switch off because otherwise we will be deafened.
Rearming complete.
We will be deafened with the ton of warnings that will just keep on popping up and blaring while setting up the aircraft. Next thing that we want to do is while we get those import switches out of the way, because we don't want to forget about those, and they're kind of smalling off the way. We want to make our way all the way back over here to the INS control panel back here. And INS control panel back here, it's in the off mode here. We have two different alignment options in the Mirage 2000C. STH, and this is the English cockpit. In the French cockpit, this would be ACLM. This is a stored heading alignment. So if you want to go ahead and do a quick alignment, use this STH/ACLM alignment here. You will know if you are able to do a stored heading alignment if you go to right shift plus K and use the right bracket twice to get to the pilot sign out sheet. This will tell you what aircraft ordnance you have currently equipped on before you take off, and it'll show you your initial position and latitude, longitude, and altitude. And it'll say in red text here, ACLM is available. So we could do the STH here in the English cockpit and to do a stored heading alignment. However, the stored heading alignment is a bit of a rougher alignment. It's still good for combat purposes, and even navigation purposes, but it will degrade faster. If you use a full alignment, it's a much more durable and stable alignment, and as such, you could potentially do like a multi-hour long flight and only have minor deviations in the position of your INS system as compared to reality. So there'd be very little drift. We're going to do the full alignment, in case you have the partially because this is a full startup video, but also to showcase how you do a full alignment if you do not have ACLM available, which you might not in your server or mission. To do that, we go to Alignment, or ALN, here, and we go up here, and we double check the position from latitude and longitude. So, latitude 25014, 25014, and these last two digits are truncated from the display, but that looks like that checks out. Longitude 55 degrees easting 21.3. So 55 degrees easting 21.3. That checks out. You are unable to see these last two values here. However, if these values match up with what's in here, you can assume that the aircraft is these positions are correct, and they should be if ACLM is available. ACLM being available effectively means that the aircraft has not changed position since its last alignment, so these values here should match up with here, and you won't have to re-enter them here into the computer. You also want to check altitude. In this case, altitude here on the left is in feet, and on the right is in meters. So we have 54 meters here, 54 meters there. That checks out. So the initial position is correctly set. We can go ahead and put away the knee board right there, and we can actually hit validate. And then to see the status of our alignment, we go to STS for status, and there we go. The alignment is now going through its process. We also have here a data cartridge slot. If we further in the alignment process, if we wanted to load up our own flight plan, for instance, we're on a multiplayer server like Persian Gulf at War, you can go to the mission editor and create your own data cartridges, and these will basically have preloaded flight plans you can make from the mission editor to load in, so that way you don't have to type in your own flight plan. You just plop in the data cartridge and load it up. That is going to be a separate video, however, because that is somewhat complicated. We can see the alignment up there is slowly ticking down. It is going to take 8 minutes from the moment we hit validate on a full alignment, so we have plenty of time to set up the aircraft as needed. First thing we want to do is go ahead and we might as well set up the engine for a start later on in the process. Do not start the engine now. we want to wait for the alignment to finish before we start the engine. It's more of a precaution than a hard and fast rule. INS alignments, either you have to do them with the engine on the entire time or off the entire time. And in general, I would just leave them off if you're able to. But in this case, we're going to leave the engine off, and we'll start it up after alignment is complete. But to get the engine ready for startup later, turn on the left and right fuel pumps. Go ahead and turn on the starter pump right there, and you want to turn on the main. Turn on the main fuel switch right here. If you want to, the aircraft on startup, by the way, does have wheel chocks in place, so you don't need to worry about the parking brake back here. If you do have landed, and you are rearming and refueling on the ground while landed, you can put the parking brake up then and there. But right now, just leave it as is in the down-off position. Moving up, we have the TACAN panel here we can set up. We want to move it to transmit receive. And then we want to basically key in the frequency of this airbase. We're at Al Minad Air Base in the Persian Gulf, has a TACAN beacon of 99 X-ray, as all land bases use X for their TACAN channel. Also, we want to use the ILS later on for runway 9. So, I actually want to use the ILS for runway 27, which is 110.75. So let's keep those two numbers in mind. So we want to do 99 X-ray, and then we want to put in 100 and double check that is right, 175. Yeah, 110.75. Turn that on to M, and keep in mind with the French aircraft, A usually means off, M usually means on. That is French, I believe. I know A is arrête or stop, so if you know A is arrête or stop, you know M is on. So that turns on the VOR/ILS system. That turns on the TACAN system. Go over here to the electronic warfare page panel, and we'll go here to put that onto the middle button, which is that square, which basically puts the system to on, but not transmitting. If you go to PCM, it'll turn on the jammer and keep the jammer on at all times. This puts everything, if you put the switch to the square mode, it'll set everything up to a standby mode ready to be triggered when needed. Turn on ECM, RWR, and MS and missile warning system switch here. If you do not have a missile warning switch system equipped, which you can equip through the 2 exterior pylons with the Magic 2 missile with the DMM mount, if you do not have that specific weapon equipped with that specific mount, the missile warning system will give you a flashing light here. In fact, what's down here? For countermeasures, leave this off until you're in the combat area. Otherwise, you stand a chance of wasting countermeasures by unknowingly hitting the decoy release buttons. We'll go here. Go to the IF panel here. Turn that to SECT to turn on the IFF system. We've noticed now that the INS panel has a 4 and a 34 here and a timer here. Basically, this is telling us now that when this trick goes over from nothing to a 4, that means that is the first stage of alignment. Now it has trickled down to 3, so that is the third stage of alignment. The aircraft can technically take off now with a slightly degraded performance, so we'll just keep on going now all the way until this clears out, until this reaches 0. So we have 27. That's basically how much is left of the alignment for a full alignment up there, and this is how much is left in the current stage of alignment. So we're going to ignore that for a while. Go over to the middle panel here. If you do not have the fuel to totalizer automatically set in the for the mission in your aircraft special options, if you do not have automatic detotalization enabled, you'll go up here and you will set your preset up and down until the amount of fuel in here matches up with within your kneeboard's pilot sign-out sheet. So you want to add up internal and external fuel. Make sure that when you add those two up, it's what's in the remaining fuel section right here of the fuel totalizer system up here. That way you keep track of how much fuel is in your entire aircraft. The gauge is what the aircraft is measuring internally. You can rely on just this number. You don't have to rely on having this set up. But it's nice to know how much is in the external fuel tanks in case you need it to. Up here, you have the amount of bingo fuel you want to set up. 2,800 pounds is a little excessive. You could even set it to theoretically an amount that is theoretically higher than what the aircraft's internal tanks could carry. I wouldn't bother. I would set it as the mission requires. If you want to be extra cautious, setting it to 1,500 kilograms is conservative. I like to set it to 1,000 kilograms. That way, I know I definitely know at that point I need to start heading back. Once the internal fuel hits this level, a bingo light will appear, and you will start have to start heading back. If I'm doing an especially long or deep strike, I then go ahead and adjust this up further to either like 1,200 or 1,500. But for most, I would at the most of the time, I like to leave it around like 1,000. You can see up here, by the way, all of our ECM and EW warfare equipment is active and on. J is for jammer, so you definitely don't want to have that going on right now. We will go over jammer use in a different video, but just know that should be off. Missile panel down here, just leave everything as is. You don't have to worry about that on startup. Next thing you want to start up is the radar up ahead here. So you want to go to this switch down here, turn it on. You hear the radar kick on. Panel down below, you want to turn IFF to N for normal for startup, and then you want to keep this as is, but you also then want to turn on this mode 4 enable, so that turns on your IFF system so that you can be identified within the Mirage 2000 system. That gets that radar. Now the radar is all set up, or the radar display is all set up. The radar itself is not turned on. HUD power switch, flip that with a right click to the up position. That'll bring up the HUD in a bit. You can go ahead and also turn on the radar altimeter up here. Also, we can go down here now, and we can see that with a status of 1, with 0 time remaining, and the PRET button fully and steadily enabled, the alignment, the aircraft's INS is fully aligned and now stable. So now that now we can go ahead and slap it into the nav position, and the navigation mode, or the INS panel operational mode, to N. This is all. The INS is now fully aligned and ready to go. We will start the engine next after we go up here real quick and check to see. Yep, the HUD comes up. HUD comes up, and you know the INS is aligned because you now have the INS fully set up correctly. So the HUD is fully set up correctly. You have your heading tape pointed in roughly the right direction. We know at this airbase that is due north, so that is roughly 45 degrees from due north. So we are pointing in the right direction, and the horizon matches with what the horizon out there is, so we're all good. We can set minimum altimeter, minimum altitude for the minimum radar by switching this down to the bottommost position. And we can see here that we can set the minimum radar altitude here, so we can go ahead and we'll set our low altitude warning for 500 feet. So for some reason, it thinks we're at negative 40 meters. Probably because we haven't set up, probably because it's not receiving any data from here. Or from the barometric altimeter. So we're going to go ahead and fix that problem. We're going to go ahead and start the engine now. Once the engine sets up, more systems will be able to come online and we'll be able to disconnect ground power. So, engine start procedure. Flip open the cover and hold it, and then use the left mouse button to hold down. As you see, the button is spring-loaded, so if you don't hold it down in time, it'll just automatically close itself. So, open, hold. Make sure your throttle's in the cutoff position. Look at the engine RPM meter here. Once the engine RPM meter passes 10, advance the throttle and then immediately push it back, and this will put it into the idle position. Engine startup will be good once the starter light here goes down, and our engine RPM stabilizes at around 49% RPM. 48, yep, that's about right. So engine RPM at idle should stabilize around 48%. The start light will flash and then go off once you pass through 45% and then back down here to signify a good start. Engine pressure is stabilized. S35s are... These flashing lights are telling you that the S35s are preparing for launch, or it's tuning to the radar. That's good. You don't have to worry about that too much. Medics are also on standby, so that's good. Let's see if we can't fix this up here. We want to zero out the altimeter to 0 right here. And there we go. So this could very well also be a fact that we're on the ground, so that's why we're getting a 040H. We're just going to switch over to barometric. We zeroed out the altimeter for this current airbase. If we want to zero out the altimeter to the current altitude that the aircraft is at, we can go to Control Y, brings up this panel, it brings up this information bar down here, and we are at 107 feet, so go ahead here and set it roughly to, I believe, that, which should roughly set the barometric altitude to the right height. It's going to be off by a couple of degrees, but this is sea level barometric altimeter right there. So the barometric altimeter is now set. The INS altimeter is correctly set, so that's fine as is. Let's see here. Pitot heat, all that's set to go. Swapping back over to this panel right here, we need to get the backup ADI to the on position. Turn on power to the backup ADI right there. Go over to the ADI panel here. Backup ADI cage pitch adjust knob right here. Right click to pull it out. Mouse wheel to adjust it. And you want to adjust it so that wherever you're currently looking at it from, or where you're going to be looking at it most commonly from, the white bars all align. Release the right mouse button, and that'll push this flag back there, and then now this is uncaged and ready for use. Working down our way here, we have our radio switch to on for the red radio, radio switch on for the green radio. Those will take a little while to boot up. Set your exterior lights down here as desired. Go ahead and set these lights as desired as needed. If this was at night, we would be turning our lights to taxi, but we're going to leave them as off right now. Leave all these switches as is. Take our radar switch and at the very least put it into warm-up. If you want to go ahead and, if you're going to be entering combat in relatively shortly after a takeoff, put it into standby. And then once you're now you can throw this into emit and be okay. The radar will not emit on the ground. It does have a weight on wheel switch that will not allow the aircraft to fry the ground crew with radar emissions. So we're just gonna, for right now, we're gonna put the radar into a warm-up stage. And that's it for the radar panel. Something I should also mention is that we should probably close the canopy, because now that with the engine started, it's a bit loud. So we'll go here. Oh, actually, with the new system, we go here, right-click. That should allow us to lower the canopy. You can use either the mouse wheel or the left-click and drag. And then left-click to seal, and knock that up to also, again, seal it again. So you have to click it until the knob is like this, and that has a fully sealed cabin. As seen now that the pressure cabin seal has not gone away. We also now want to disconnect ground power.
Chief, turn off the ground power. Copy.
Also, we want to go back here. We want to run the electric test.
Ground power is now off.
Running the electric test is going to test the electric system for the autopilot. We got a green light for good. We want to now check the hydraulic test. However, before we check the hydraulic test, move the control stick left and right. Up and back and forward, all around. And then also move the rudders left to right. And then after all that, put it into test, let it run the test, and we're pretty much ready to take off after that. While we are waiting for the test to finish, put the parking brake on, and then remove the wheel chucks.
Chief, remove the wheel chucks. Copy. Wheel chocks are now removed.
Alright, so once we drop that parking brake, we're going to start moving, so... Alright, we got the green light for the fly-by-wire test has now been completed. Put the cover back down, and we are actually we are very few steps left to go. If you need to adjust in-game volumes for different systems, go ahead, that's the panel for there. Moving forward of the Mirage, you want to go ahead and plug in your get your tower frequency on your radio set up if it's not already the correct frequency. We're going to go ahead and just assume I did that as is. Make sure that this you have this panel up here. This panel up here will indicate whether or not you have different control surfaces out. For instance, that's your air brake. And then you have your wheel brake, or not the wheel brake, that doesn't pop up, but this is your parking brake right here. Nose wheel steering is that light there. So keep in mind you won't be able to move if this brake light is on. However, the main reason you're up here is depending on your aircraft's configuration, if you have a centerline fuel tank that is full, or you have air-to-ground ordnance, you want to split this fly-by-wire gain G-limiter switch to ground. That'll clear the config light up there. And now the only light we have left is park. So we're going to go back over here, drop the parking brake, and we're going to start moving forward. Now, ideally, you want to hit the wheel brakes before you drop the parking brake, but if there's nobody else on the server or nobody else there at the ramp, you can get away with slapping down the parking brake and starting to get moving. Also to note, in order to clear this caution here, you can click on the autopilot master button here on the left-hand side, and that'll clear the caution. So let's get going. So, taxiing, you can taxi in the Mirage 2000C relatively fast. That being said, do you want to? Not really. You want to go at a speed that is safe for other players and AI around you without causing a traffic jam. So you don't need to crawl, but don't exactly, you don't want to go super fast either. It's a taxiway, not a runway. Unless there's some kind of emergency going on and the main runway's been bombed back to hell and forth. As a general note for taxiing on runways, as I will probably cover in all my other taxiing videos in the future, stay on the yellow line. The yellow line, it makes you look like you know what you're doing. Plus, the yellow lines will lead you to your various parking spots. It'll lead you to the runways and all that other good stuff. So we're going to take off from runway 09. Even though our flight plan does dictate that we want to take off from runway 27, we're going to take off from runway 09 just to speed up this tutorial quite a little bit, because it's already been roughly half an hour, and really there isn't all that much to cover or talk about for the remainder, so go ahead. So we're just going to go ahead and take the shorter exit. If you're doing a long straight, you can turn off nose wheel steering, and you will keep relatively steady. And this is a good time to do any final checks for all of your systems. So if you need to make any radio calls, make them now. On a server, trying to get friends up and together. If you are doing a Mirage, for instance, for a combat air patrol, get in contact with AWACS. Tell them you're going to be up relatively soon. See if there's any friendly attacker squadrons that need escorting, stuff like that. Other things to note. The only other thing I can think of to note is you can corner relatively aggressively in the Mirage 2000C without worrying about the aircraft tipping over. This is not an F-15C. This is not an F-15 Eagle or Strike Eagle or a F-16, or especially this is not an F-16 Falcon. So you can definitely corner relatively aggressively without worrying about tipping over. However, do be careful. Still, don't take the corners too aggressively. You don't want to jam the nose wheel steering and go off the side of the runway. That's just embarrassing for everyone. So here we go. And your taxiing procedure is complete once you get here. Not all airports have this, but basically the ones that do, there's a yellow line, and this is where you will stop your taxiing procedure and await clearance for takeoff. If an airport does not have this, generally you want to be at least a little bit further back from the airstrip, and you want to hold here for clearance to take the runway. So I am going to put the parking brake on, only because I am going to be, because I know I'm not going to, I know I'm cutting the video here, and in the next episode, we are going to go ahead and do takeoff and landing in the Mirage 2000C. So I'm going to actually right now do some practice circuits with the Mirage 2000C in this loadout. Get a little bit of practice in, and then I'll go ahead and make my video to make sure I'm a bit refreshed on the procedure, to make sure I'm not making any mistakes in giving you guys any misleading information. So until next time, this is LockOS signing out from DCS World in the Mirage 2000C, and I will see you all next time for the takeoff, flight, and landing tutorial. See you all then.